Super Mario 64. Considered one of the greatest and most important video games of all time, it's safe to say it's aged well. From its level design to its stars, a large portion of this game still holds up today. Except for the movement. Now don't get me wrong, the moveset of this game is great. You can long jump, dive, triple jump, even break it down. But the actual movement is extremely stiff. I mean, you barely turn around after ground pounding, and the ability to move in the air is practically non-existent. However, Super Mario Odyssey, a game that came out about 21 years later, remedies many of those issues. So what if you could just play Odyssey in Mario 64? Introducing the Odyssey Mario Movement mod for Co-op Deluxe. It makes Mario's movement much more akin to Odyssey's, along with a few extra funny little options. And today, I want to show you just how busted it would be to play Mario 64 like it's Mario Odyssey, by doing a 70-star speedrun using both the vanilla moveset and OMM to truly show the power of modernization. Before I even explain OMM, I should explain Super Mario 64 Co-op Deluxe, a PC version of Mario 64 that has multiplayer and mod support, which happens to be where OMM lives. As for OMM itself, it stands for Odyssey Mario Movement. Get familiar with that acronym, as I mentioned in the intro section. It basically overhauls the Mario 64 movement to be a lot smoother and more like Super Mario Odyssey's. On top of that, it also changes most of the game's stages to be easier to navigate if you have the Star Collection option set to stay in level or non-stop, which are basically the same. Non-stop just skips the collection animation. For example, Jolly Roger Bay now has a pipe inside the ship so you can leave after grabbing the star inside. That out of the way, we can begin discussing the differences here are pretty night and day, to be honest, as despite most of Mario's moves being kept intact, OMM adds a lot more moves and even changes some pre-existing ones. Let's start with an important one. Movement isn't super stiff anymore. I mean, look at this. I can actually turn if I'm in the air. What a gracious gift from up above. But in all seriousness, aerial movement is a lot more lenient and flexible, which allows you to do a lot more with even basic running and jumping. As for actual moves, OMM adds and changes plenty. For starters, let's look at the dive. In vanilla, this triggers when you have enough speed, grounded or aerial, and press the attack button, which will propel you forward with the same momentum you had going into it. While with OMM, the dive is triggered with a ground pound, followed then by the attack button, just like a lot of other 3D Mario games. And it propels you forward with a constant amount of speed, making it possible to move with it without even walking. On top of that, the reworked dive also shoots you up into the air a bit, making height gain possible, and being a great tool for barely making it up on ledges, turning the dive into a better overall traversal tool than the vanilla one, with the trade-off that it's not as easy to keep your momentum with it. But as we go, you'll see why that doesn't really matter. Now the dive is one of only 2 moves to receive any changes with OMM, the other being the wall kick. Wall kicks are odd in vanilla Mario 64, as it's the only game that has them that, as far as I know, doesn't allow wall sliding, which means wall kicks are very tricky to pull off consistently, because if you miss the timing then, well... OMM unsurprisingly changes wall kicks to add wall slides to make wall kicking less of a blunt force head trauma nightmare to more of a leisurely pastime. And combined with the better air control, actually allows you to do corner wall kicks, something that vanilla Mario 64 doesn't allow. And with the better air control, it means you can better combo the wall kick with other moves to scale walls, such as using cap throws into dives to truly gain height. But more on cap throwing in a bit. Now I promise we can get into the meat of OMM, the new moves, in a bit. There is a move that was removed from OMM, being the breakdance. Now as cool as this thing looks, let me tell you, it is borderline useless, as despite being an attacking move triggered by crouching and attacking, there's almost no use case for this thing. I mean, what are you ever gonna need to attack an enemy around you that a simple punch or stomp wouldn't do fine for? I use it in my run more for wasting time than actually hitting stuff. It's honestly such a bad move that I bet you didn't even know you could perform it in the first place up until I told you. If you did though, you get a free Crayola red-orange crayon on me. But with all that out of the way, we can finally discuss the new moves, and there are a lot. So I'll try to be brief for the sake of keeping this section quote-unquote short. Let's start with the true star of Odyssey, Cappy, aka our cap throws, which OMM assigns to his own button, the X button. You can throw your cap forward, up, down, and around you. though I rarely found uses for up and down throws because here, unlike Odyssey, you can actually control the distance that your cap goes by pressing the button for a specific period of time. A brief press basically placing Cappy in front of you, and a full send throwing Cappy all the way out. All throws can pick up coins and defeat enemies. Spin throws are best at both though, because Cappy will continue spinning until he's finished doing so or until you press the throw button again to bring him back early. This can be particularly useful on bullies or groups of enemies, as repeatedly throwing your cap at them is wildly inefficient and very tedious, and just as writing the script has to me, would probably give you severe carpal tunnel. And to elaborate on what I briefly mentioned a second ago, yes, you can also call the Cappy back early by pressing the throw button again, so you don't need to wait out an entire spin throw, and you can throw him sooner if you miss an enemy, for example. Cap throws can also break boxes, but that was probably implied, so I won't go into detail about that. Now for the new moves beyond Cappy. For starters, you can roll by crouching and attacking, which immediately gives you a large speed boost, along with making your character into a ball, which is hilarious and entirely cosmetic. Repeatedly hitting the attack button while rolling will continue giving you boosts in momentum, and nearly nothing can stop you, only bonking into walls, crashing into enemies, or slopes too steep to traverse, asterisk, can really put an end to your Sonic cosplay. There's not really much to the roll beyond that, and it can go up slopes to be clear, just not steep ones as you'll slowly be forced to turn and roll back down. But overall, it's a great traversal tool, and can really keep the pace of the game moving forward. And now, for the move that can truly break Mario 64 wide open, the spin, assigned to its own button as well, the Y button. Seemingly innocent on the surface, the spin is a move that truly trivializes almost anything this game can throw at you. The spin is very simple. You press the button, or rotate your movement stick like a crazy person instead of using the button like the sophisticated society we are, and you'll spin in place. Jumping with this gives you some extra height. Simple, right? What's so bad about that? I don't hear you ask, because this is a YouTube video, not a FaceTime call. Well, that's not the full picture, because if you press this button in the air, you'll gain a little height and you'll slowly float down while the spin continues. And if you spam it, well, you may as well consider a career in commercial airlining, because you can then truly fly. As the height loss from spinning continuously is so minimal that you can glide from one end of a stage to the center of it in a lot of cases, or the other end. This very spin trivializes so many of this game's obstacles that the stars may as well just be in an empty field, because they'd be just as free regardless. Now to actually explain why I believe this move is busted, let's start with an example. Here in Hazy Maze Cave, collecting the 8 red coins without any of the moving platforms provided, a feat that, on its own, is pretty difficult, if not impossible with the vanilla moveset. I grab the first red coins pretty normally, and then spin jump off a slope that should force me to slide off of it, onto a floating piece of geometry for the next 2 coins. Then I roll down a long jump off that chunk of land, followed then by some mid-air spins to keep my height and grab the 7th coin. I then barely land on the piece of land that the 7th coin resided on, getting my cap bounce back. Then I do an air twirl, because I thought it would have landed on the platform, and spin in the air to stall until I find that last coin, throwing my cap around me and diving to ensure that the coin is collected, getting that 8 red coin star. The spin is very busted, because in this very example alone, I avoided falling onto the ground below just by mashing my Y button so hard it became a crater in my Pro Controller. Obviously, the spin is not the most overpowered thing ever, but in combination with any of OMM's moves, magic can happen before your very eyes. And that segues nicely into our next topic. I already said this in the intro, but Mario 64's levels are very well made and are, mostly, fun to navigate, and a lot of the star placements aid in that. However, as I feel I've made clear already, this game's movement just doesn't mesh well with these stages and how open they are. It can be hard to get around, and I often felt more annoyed or even frustrated trying to navigate basic obstacles. I swear half my time with the vanilla moveset speedrun was just spent fighting my movement, or lack thereof. Here's an example to really illustrate my issues. The Vanish Cap, or as I call it the Invis Cap course, was the bane of my existence during my vanilla moveset run. It sounds insane, but that last rotating platform is really what makes the experience so miserable. That last jump right there is kinda tight. Like, you genuinely only have like a half a second to react, and if you don't, you risk sliding off and falling, or if you try to hastily rush onto the platform below, 9 times out of 10 you'll just bonk, which can sometimes just kill you. Even worse, if you make it onto the platform, the cycle might just continue. It's awful. If the movement of base Mario 64 wasn't so strict and tight, I might have had an easier time with this level. The funny thing is though, I didn't even need to do the Invis Cap course for my OMM run, as movement is so fluid and insane that I didn't need any of the caps because it was really easy to get most, if not all, the stars in a level I went into. Unless you're Cool Mountain or Dire Docks. I ignored those ones pretty hard. Obviously, that's not to say vanilla movement is impossible to work with. I mean, Miyamoto himself did will Mario into existence with superhuman capabilities just for some dude online to complain about not being able to ignore the entire ground. I mean, look at speedrunners. They've done insane stuff with the vanilla game. This is my video, and so my several gripes with the base movement are all that matter here. And I didn't enjoy using the stock movement to traverse the land, so kindly given to me by this Mario 64 ROM. Now with OMM on the other hand, that's a different story. His navigation of the game's levels felt more like a stroll in the park than some heinous acts against God. Just look at this footage. So much movement. Really goes to show how trivial it all becomes under OMM's rules. But that's what makes it fun to me. But the fact that I can almost entirely ignore the difficulty gives me the time to perfect my abilities, rather than spending the time fighting them and wishing I had suffered through Marvel Rivals instead. Stay tuned for that. I'm not exactly sure what else to add to this part, honestly. This section was more just of a personal skill issue story time than anything. But it goes to show that when the movement is good, level navigation becomes second nature. I almost never struggled in my OMM run, whereas the time I needed to fight my movement in the vanilla run left it running for 3 times longer than it should have. I promise this section will be shorter as I really don't have much to talk about here. Mario 64's boss fights are pretty good. There aren't a whole lot, being only about 12 in total, if you count Big Bully, Big Boo, and Bowser refights. But all of them are very well designed and fun to fight, if a bit easy. Of all the things I call difficult in this video, the fights aren't. Not by a long shot, honestly. So I may as well just go over all of them. King Bomb. Throw him 3 times. It's really easy either way. Even easier with OMM because Cappy makes grabbing him entirely brainless. King Womp. We all know the iconic bug of being able to ground pound through falling womps. Do that 3 times, King Womp, and he crumbles like Kanye's career. That's a relevant joke. Big Boo. Ground pound him 3 times, but only when you aren't facing him. Even easier with OMM because of Cappy's lingering hitbox. That counts towards hitting the Big Boo. Bowser, Part 1. Grab and... Well, you know what? I have a special section for the King of the Koopas, so I'll hold off on these for now. I-Rock. Hit him in the eyes when they open. You can alternate between eyes and you'll win. If you try to lose this one, honestly. OMM surprisingly doesn't even make this one easier, unless you count moving to punch I-Rock in vanilla any challenge at all. Big Bully. Smack him into the lava. I will admit this is the first mildly difficult boss, just because you can still be knocked around if you aren't careful with how you attack him. But then OMM makes the bully entirely worthless because my funny hat can do sick drifts. Chief Chili. Wait, that's not who he is? He's just called Chill Bully? And Chief Chili is from Mario 64 DS? Whatever, he's Chief Chili, this is my video. Anyways, Chief Chili, same as Big Bully from Lethal Lava Land but cold. Wiggler. I'm gonna be honest, I didn't even visit Tiny Huge Island in either of my runs. I totally forgot it even existed. But you stomp on him 3 times, each time I'll get angrier and do something interesting to change up the fight. That won't save him from being an easy fight. OMM realistically only makes it easier to stomp him faster. That's it for the boss fights. I might have missed some, but it's really not that big of a deal. They're all easy either way. And for the sake of the video's premise, I won't provide further commentary to avoid dragging the video's length through the mud. Swimming is something that, while not present in a lot of stages, is incredibly annoying when it is. In vanilla, it's incredibly slow. So slow in fact that I could have watched the whole Mario movie while trying to get even 1 star in Jolly Roger Bay. But if you time your A presses, you'll swim marginally faster. It's somewhat noticeable, but swimming is slow either way. A turtle on rollerblades can't outrun Usain Bolt after all. But with OMM, you can do some really fast swimming. The mod doesn't change stock swimming, rather, adding an ability akin to Odyssey swimming, where you can ground pound and attack to propel yourself forward a bit. But unlike Odyssey, you can just hold it and swim really fast. I'm not complaining though. There's 3 stages dedicated to water alone. That's 3 stages too many, and I will therefore take my hyperspeed water navigation any day of the week. But on the opposite spectrum of swimming, we have slides. Despite being a niche part of the game, I felt were somewhat important to bring up just because of how insane OMM makes them. I don't mean insane in the sense that they're harder, of course not. No, I mean you can just skip the vast majority of a slide with OMM. because slopes are already entirely null and void, and the freer air movement allows you to just fall wherever you so please. Look at this sliding cool mountain. It took me 3 minutes to do this skip vanilla, whereas with OMM it only took about 10 seconds to do an even bigger skip. It's not like I have to do a slide skip like that, but it goes to show just how easy it is when you can already ignore 70% of the average level's terrain. I also got a 12-second Peach's Secret slide time with it, just a fun fact I guess. Alright, it's time to address the elephant in the room, and I probably should have sooner. It's taking up way too much space in here. Slopes are typically quite annoying in Mario 64, and rightfully so. Most people can't just find their local mountain and walk up like it's another staircase at the mall. They bog down your movement until it's at a complete halt, and you'll find Mario getting belly burns from the concrete he just slid down at maximum speeds. But with OMM, I don't know what it is about this mod in particular, but you can ignore virtually all slopes. Here's an example from Cool Mountain. Again, I know, but it's a good level for this kind of thing. Here I literally just jump up the side of the mountain like it's nothing. And here I spin until I land on what you could barely even consider a floor you should be able to stand on. Like, it's insane. Anything that isn't, by code, defined as a wall can just be a floor. You can bend this world to your very will, and bring it to its knees just by spamming the Y button until you find that you are, in fact, not falling. This is definitely one of the main reasons level exploration is so trivial with OMM. The fact that slopes are a suggestion. Spins allow you to glide out of even the hairiest situations, not even to mention Cappy, means that you're just able to go wherever you feel like it and nothing can stop you. But with the levels and movesets covered, what is there left to talk about? Oh yeah. There exist only 3 Bowser stages in Super Mario 64, and they're all meant to act like the ultimate challenge on that floor. You'll have tackled everything up until that point, so the game just throws everything it's got at you on your way to the big boss man himself, Bowser. So as a climactic finale to this video, I will go in depth over every Bowser stage and what it's like on each side of the Mario-shaped coin. Bowser in the Dark World. The very first Bowser stage, located right in the main lobby behind the big door with the star on it. Bowser even says hi to you when you enter. Isn't he polite? The level starts very simple. There's some fire, a few moving platforms, easy stuff. Then you get to the Goomba platform, which also isn't that bad. And the bridge, very thin platform that while you can't easily fall off, definitely shows that any mistakes in this level could cost your run through, as there's nothing below to catch you. Then there's some amps that are barely a threat, and some more moving platforms, which can trip you up if you aren't careful. And finally, some seesaw platforms to really force you to keep moving. Scattered throughout the level are also red coins, for the only star in this level. But they aren't easy to get. Just the first 2 alone are some of the hardest red coins I can think of. With the vanilla moveset, this level is quite foreboding and really packs a punch. Every mistake costs you here, so you have to be careful. With OMM on the other hand, it's just as free as usual, and you can easily save yourself if you fall by spinning enough to make Beyblades look lame. Just don't input a ground pound. Bowser in the Fire Sea. Immediately, you dropped into a very different sight from the Dark World. There's lava everywhere, and Bowser didn't even bother greeting you this time either. Rude. The platforming is much more linear. Sure, Dark World only has one path, but it was still possible to slightly deviate and take a different path, even if it all leads to the same place. Here, however, it may as well be a 2D Mario level, because the only way is forward. Much of the platforming is closer to the lava because that's of course the main gimmick, and accompanying many a moving platform on the bullies again, because why not, right? So anyway, you start on the first layer and are met with a moving platform to get to the next platforms. Then you go up this pole, up an elevator, and onto the next section, with fire and moving platforms to greet you, which you then go past to climb up the expanding and shrinking platform, which, when fully expanded, has the metal grades here act like slopes. Then you get to the last layer, and have to carefully navigate this pit of lava, rising and falling platforms, and an amp to get to the very easy pulls section. The red coins here are, while still difficult, not quite as out of the way as Dark World's, which isn't surprising given how linear Fire Sea is. The vanilla moveset makes this course quite interesting. It's probably the easiest Bowser course, but it still hurts for sure. With OMM, the level is actually not totally torn apart, as many of the obstacles can't be skipped as easily. But that's not to say OMM doesn't still make quick work of this level. I mean, my speedrun breezed past it so fast I probably didn't even know what happened when I entered the Bowser fight. Bowser in the Sky, the final challenge any Mario 64 player will face before fighting the King of the Koopas himself. It's a perilous level full of all of the challenges the game has offered up until this point, and it's a test of endurance and skill, for it's a long journey to the top. Starting from the spawn point, you're met with a few disconnected platforms, a tilting platform that forces you to keep moving, and a narrow cover wall that you can just run up for some reason. From there, you're met with a fast spinning platform with an amp circling it, and some other geometry, followed by some platforming that actually has a platform to catch you beneath it. Which is odd as it's the only Bowser stage like this, unless you count lava as a cushiony surface for some reason. Then you have some more obstacles and a womp in the way, which you then navigate up to, past some more enemies, and then to a button that you press to make stairs to go higher, which you then run up another slope platform, past some fire, to then take a moving platform past some floating geometry you have to dodge. Then you climb up a pole avoiding more amps, jump on 2 more moving platforms, then get to 2 spinning platform sets, and onto the final layer of the level, full of Goombas, wind, and pillars with carvings of an ancient civilization's many hardships, and into the final Bowser pipe. If that description sounded vague, it's because I usually skip it. You'll see what I mean. Now with stock movement, this is a scary level. It's meant to be a gauntlet of everything you've done up until this point. The level only serves as a final test to see if you're really truly ready. See if you can beat Super Mario 64. But with OMM, that's a bit of a different story. And by different, I mean it's like rearranging the words in Moby Dick into the Hungry Caterpillar. Just roll the clip. This is the true final boss of OMM breaking Mario 64. But nothing can truly sum up my intentions with this video better than this short 1-minute clip. One that completely disregards the level design and turns it into my personal funhouse. OMM can single-handedly downgrade a long-winded Super Gauntlet level down into a mere captcha. And I wouldn't have it any other way. Well, this is a bit of an anticlimactic end, huh? Yeah, so I never actually talked about fighting Bowser himself, so I may as well here. Each fight revolves around grabbing his tail, swinging him around, and throwing him towards bombs littered around the arena. The Dark World fight is nothing special, it's the first one after all. The Fire Sea fight has Bowser tilting the platform you're on very far if he stomps on it, which he'll start the fight by doing. And the Sky fight has shockwaves when he stomps, fire breath, and the platform falls apart when he's on 1 HP. Or if he lands on it after jumping out of the void. Despite my... oh yeah, Steam doesn't count playtime in non-Steam games, I forgot. Despite my probably many hours in this game, I still cannot seem to wrap my head around spinning a thumbstick and pressing the B button when the giant turtle monster happens to be facing a giant sea mine floating over the void. I have no idea why this was ever a struggle for me. This is something children have to be able to do because Mario 64 is for all the good boys and girls. That is, till I accidentally popped off during my OMM run for this very video, and hit every single throw without missing a single one. I don't know, don't ask me, man. So, what about the speedruns? I bet you forgot about those given I had paid them less attention than Valve has to any game not named Dota or Counter-Strike. Well, in the end, my vanilla moveset run finished with a time of 2 hours, 23 minutes, and 57 seconds, while my OMM speedrun ended with a time of 51 minutes and 54 seconds. What a huge difference. But that's it. That's my stupidly long-winded way to say, yeah, Mario 64 would be pretty easy if you could cheese every level by knowing how to button mash in such a way that would completely paralyze a caveman spectating. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed this completely new form of video from me. I won't be dropping regular gaming content videos completely, but I want to delve into more scripted stuff, so I hope you go on this ride with me. Alright, see ya.